What's going on? This is GameWithSki, and we are playing Path of Exile. And we're going with the Ascendant this time, and they made a lot of changes. Now, this guide is for newish players. This guide is for new players. If you're a completely advanced player, I guess you could use this guide for some ideas, but you'll probably have a different build. This is a league starter build for newish players who, if you want to follow along with me while I play, but I'm going to show you the gist of this build, and I think it should work out pretty well. So let's get into it. Now, the first thing we're going to pick is the Scion, and I'm going to go over the Ascendancy passives first and why I picked them. We picked the Ascendant for the Scion, and we are going down here to Gladiator first. Why Gladiator? Well, because we have this massive bonus. Now, originally I I picked the Gladiator for this build, and then I thought, oh, well, I picked the Gladiator, but it only has really one really good bonus, and that bonus carries over to the Ascendant. So then you can branch off of that and get additional excellent bonuses. And you also get the added bonus of starting at the Ascendant portion of the tree, which has some really good nodes. So that's why we picked the Ascendant. So first we go down to Gladiator here, and the main bonus of this is we get the gain inherent bonuses from dual wielding are doubled. That's the big one here. So basically, if we get 10% more attack speed, well, now we get 20% more attack speed, which is really big when you pair it with something like multi-strike, which gives another 40% more attack speed. And then we have one more attack speed multiplier that we can go with, and I'll show you it later. So we're gonna be attacking insanely fast. And then we get the deal 1% more damage with hits and ailments to rare and unique enemies every 2 seconds they've been in your presence. So this is pretty powerful. We don't have to go with like the Warden where you have to use another ability to do that insane damage. Well, you get this all the time, pretty much. As long as there's a new rare. Every time a new rare, it'll be nice for the bosses. Next thing we do after we get the Gladiator is we're going to go up and get the Elementalist. And this is really huge here because the main reason we go with Elementalist is because, well, every single one of these stats is awesome. Shocks from your hits always increase damage taken by at least 10%. That is a big one. So that is really huge there. So as long as we shock them, they're going to at least increase their damage taken by 10%. Okay? And the biggest one here is cannot take reflected elemental damage. That means any reflect modifier in a map, we can now ignore that because we don't take any reflected elemental damage. And then exposure you inflict applies an additional -20 to the affected resource. So that's huge. So as long as we do exposure, we get -20. And +1 to maximum of number of summoned golems. So we get a free 10% attack speed, I think. It's the golem I'm going to go with because I want to really stack attack speed. It just makes the game feel, it just makes everything feel smooth when you attack insanely fast. It just feels good. Even though you might deal a little less damage, the whirling blades and everything, moving around, you're going to be moving around really fast. You almost don't even need move speed. I'll show you that later. And then after we get Elementalist, we're going to go back down and maybe get Path of the Duelist. we don't have to get Path of the Duelist. It might be better to just get like a passive point and another passive point. You know, it might be better just to get an extra passive point. I don't know. You can either get Path of the Duelist or an extra passive point. Either or is good to me. Now, I'll show you where we're going with the skills here. And then I'll tell you what to do endgame. Make sure you're writing all this down because I'm not writing this down anywhere. Well, I did write it down on a piece of old-fashioned paper, but... Okay, we're going to start here at physical damage and strength, and we're going to go straight down here. So we get 28 resistances, resist all here. And we're going to come over here and get these attack speed and berserking. And we're going to take this attack mastery where it says non-veil skills target one additional enemy nearby. So all right off the bat, we're getting excellent splash damage here, okay? And then we're going to take these 2 life nodes here. So I don't know if I should just... Yeah, I'll do... Anyways, yeah. I'll pretend like we don't have anything, maybe? I don't know. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come down here. Now, originally I picked Elemental Equilibrium, which is almost like a no-brainer, but then when you think about, since we're using Elemental Hit, let's go back to Elemental Hit here. Oh, wrong button. Elemental Hit, you deal an attack, and then a secondary attack spawns. Okay, let's see here. Has more area effect against enemies. The skill deals more damage for each ailment present on enemies. Okay. Deals random damage in an area effect. Okay, anyways. If the attack hits an enemy, it will deal damage in an area around them, with the radius being larger if that enemy is suffering from an ailment of the chosen element. It would avoid you choosing elements twice in a row. So we're doing area damage. Now, what I'm not sure, the reason why I'm not sure is if we have our hit, we can X out this. If we have our hit and this hitting, I don't know if they both choose the same element. So could somebody please help me answer that question, is if we should go Elemental Equilibrium because we're hitting an additional enemy. I don't know if that hit is also using the same element as us. So that would be something to note. And also the other note is if we do Elemental Equilibrium, we cannot use Multi-Strike. So that's the other thing. I guess it's the choice is yours. So I don't know if these 2 skills overlap since it's an AoE damage. I don't know if these if they'll overlap and they will negate the elemental equilibrium if they hit the same. If it all hits the same element, I don't know how that works. So please help me out if you get a chance, okay? All right, from here, there's a couple things we can do. We can either go straight down here to get life and mana leech, or we can go down here to get life and mana leech, and then if we need intel or strength, we can spec into those for particular gear. But that's later anyways. All right, so we come down to here. We're not going to get elemental equilibrium. And we're going to go to the left. And we're going to take this cluster right here. We're going to go down and we're going to take bravery because we get this big life. We're going to take that. We're getting plus 20 strength and attack range is the main reason why we're getting that. And here we're getting plus 20 intelligence for our intelligence gems that we're going to be using. And then we go ahead and spec this dervish. So this is attack speed and block, and increased damage. Big damage boost here. From here, we're going to go down and just get Fortify. Since it's right here, we're only 2 points away. We're going to get our Fortify Mastery. Melee hits Fortify. So now we are a tank. And from here, we're going to go to the right, and we're going to get more resists. And we're going to get the life right here. And I believe we're going to stop here. We're not going to get anything else for now. So we're going to stop here at Golem's Blood. And the next step is we're going to work our way over to get our Clever Thief. So we're going to move in this way, and we're going to go up and get speed, accuracy, and dex. And we're going to get more intelligence for our intelligence gems. And we're going to hit Heart of the Oak. And we're going to go down and one with nature. Huge, more resists, crit chance, elemental damage with attacks, just huge. And then we're going to go through here, get our spell, block, into more suppression. We got life here. I think we're going to skip this here. Going to skip that. We're going to get these 2 life nodes here. Maybe I should I just get rid of everything that we're not getting for now? I don't want to, because I might forget what we're actually getting. All right. So we'll get that. We're going to go up. We won't get those. And we're going to go up here. And we can get this aspect of the links. Attack damage, a crit chance, and move speed. And then we're going to go and get these evasion and resist nodes. We're just having awesome resists right now. And we're going to go to the right here. And we're going to wait on this nut cluster. We're going to wait. And we're going to go straight up here. And we're going to get this Clever Thief. This is probably the best node in one of the best nodes in the game here. Goes basically life and mana leech, and then you get this leech mastery, and 10% of leech is instant. Now we don't have to use claws anymore. We can use any one-handed weapon you want. But there's something big I have going on that I'm going to get at later once we get to our items. Then we're going to go get this 2 life nodes here. Then we can get this attack cluster here. This attack cluster is really nice because 5% increased attack speed per enemy in close range. Right there. Bam. That is huge. Huge. You'll definitely feel it. You'll definitely feel it. I mean, you're going to be whirling through. If you want to skip mobs, you're going to whirl insanely fast. After that, we don't get this spell suppression until later. After that, we can go back through and get some of these nodes here, where we're going to go down and over, and we're going to get Rage on Hit. That's really a massive more multiplier. And then right here, we click this. Nearby enemy are intimidated when you have Rage. And then we can get this Banner Aura effect, which makes them take 8% increased damage. Well, that's another more multiplier there. So intimidated enemies right here. So we have basically they'll take 20% more damage between these 2 nodes. And the banner has another effect where it kind of gets yeah, just makes them take more damage, okay? Next thing over, 2 clicks over, and we get Attack Mastery. Now, this is going to be big for later, where monsters cannot block your attacks. So that's really nice. I mean, we have to use quite a few points. If you're lucky, we can unspec this, and if you can get a weapon that, well, you can't, because you can't undo the blocks. Yeah, so this is really nice for enemies who have block. So this is like Halls of Great, mobs that can really have a high chance of block. That's going to really give us trouble. All right, next node. We go one more, and we have this life. We can get more life here, and then we get this more fortification here. That just increases our overall tankiness, and then I decided to get the 10% reduced damage over time while you have at least 20 fortification. I think that'll be good versus like degen, chaos degen, stuff like that. Maybe. It's only 1 point. I don't know. We could undo this whole cluster here. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Depends on if you want block or not. That's all there is to it. It's nice because you just go one over and we have this big life cluster here. And then what we'll do is just get the remaining, fill out the remaining of the nodes that are close to you. That's pretty much the early game build in a nutshell. For the more advanced level, what's really going to be powerful is at the end game. We're going to be looking for an end game claw, and we're going to spec the claws, and we're going to spec right here. Inherent attack speed is doubled while wielding 2 claws. Now, I don't know if this is doubled twice with that other. I don't know how this interacts, so if somebody can let me know, that would be great. But I'm taking this as an additional 10% more attack speed multiplier. So let me know how that works, if you know, if I'm thinking of it wrong. Or it could be, you know, we could have really something special here. So eventually we're going to get dual claw. And then eventually, what I would like to spec is I would like to go and get mind over matter for end game, but we're going to take that when we get there. We're just going to stick with this build for now and then figure out that mind over matter later. We'll probably have to unspec quite a few nodes to get there. Okay, so just take the tree as in like this. We're going to get those jewel slots here. And maybe even grab this large jewel socket here. Or, actually, we'd grab this jewel socket there, because that's melee damage versus projectile damage. I haven't done any jewel sockets yet, so we'll see when we get to that point. We'll see, and then we got another jewel right there. So with the jewel, we're going to slot, our first slot would be +2 energy shield when enemy is hit by attacks. That's going to be a lot, you know, when we're attacking insanely fast. So that is the basic skill tree for the Scion, for the Ascendant. Eventually, we could probably unspec these manas, maybe we'll keep them. But remember, for the claw, we're going to look for... Well, I'll show you the weapons that we're going to use at first, so let's not even pretend like we don't even have claws, okay? We're going to pretend because I have a weapon I thought of that is going to just make your head explode, okay? Because I've been wanting to make a build with this weapon since I've played this game, like, years and years and years ago, and I found this build... this weapon will make this build work, and it's such cheap gear, okay? Remember, inherent bonuses from dual wielding are doubled, okay? So that's the passive tree, and we're using elemental hit. Now, why are we using elemental hit? Because you can use any weapon, and it doesn't matter what weapon you do, because the only damage that you are doing is the hit from this gem. That's what makes this build so beautiful, is you don't have to look for any weapons. I found weapons, and they are insanely cheap and insanely defensive, okay? So what items are we going to be using with elemental hit? What's our defense going to be? Well, our first way of defense is going to be max 75% blocking, okay? We're going to have max block, and I'll show you how we're going to reach max block without even getting any block nodes, okay? But our second form of defense is right here, flesh and stone. Oh, and the great thing about elemental hit is now we don't have to use any offensive auras. All our auras can now be defensive auras. Okay? So just we'll come back to elemental hit up because I've kind of got this going on funny in my mind here. All right. So while in sand stance, it makes you take up to 10 to 19% less damage from enemies in the aura. So any enemies in the aura, you're getting 10 to 19%. So let's just say at end game, 19% less damage taken. That is massive. That's like the biggest buff, and that's insane. That's insane, okay? So that's 20% less right there. Just about. Next aura we're using. So that's, oh, reservation, 25% mana. Holy crap. I think it used to be 10%, didn't it? Or causes you to take less damage from attacks from enemies that aren't nearby. Okay, it has now nearby enemies take up to... Okay. Take up to 10% less damage from nearby enemies while in sand stance. Scaling up to... Okay. Alright. So, basically almost 20% damage reduction, okay, in sand stance. That's 25% of our mana gone, though, okay? Second aura that we could use is Arctic Armor. And this has a 25% reservation. And this one is basically less fire damage taken and less physical damage taken. And this one's only from hits. So we don't have to use Arctic Armor if you're running low on mana, but we can use it. Third form of damage mitigation is Enduring Cry. So this build that I'm making, I want it to be a complete tank. I don't want to have to move or dodge, okay? My goal is to be able to, somebody new to be able to just sit there and stand there and beat on them. And we can just tank. All right, we're going to be a tank with dual wielding claws tanks, okay? So that's going to be, we're going to be cool. And we're going to be able to keep up with all your buddies who play the game a lot more and who have a lot more knowledge of the game, but we'll be able to keep up with them because we're just going to be a tank. And it's great damage, okay? So we got Arctic Armor, and now Enduring Cry. We can get, if need be, we could use Enduring Cry, and we can take additional 5% less. We get 3 endurance charges. Free endurance charges, that's 15% less physical damage. And I think even 15% less elemental damage now, too. So I think they changed endurance charges, so. But we don't even need to worry about that much. All right, so what weapon are we going to use? All right, oh, I got it for you right here. Replicas, Ungles, Gouch, Boot Knife. All right, this weapon is insanely cheap, okay? Nobody knows about this, but plus 18% chance to block while dual wielding. So the reason nobody uses this is because the only skill that you could use with this weapon all the way to end game is elemental hit. So we don't need any damage. All we need is this block and the attack speed and crit chance. And then we could chill for 4 seconds on block and shock enemies for 4 seconds on block. Now, if enemies are chilled and shocked with elemental hit, you deal more damage to them, okay? And we're going to have 2 of these claws, okay? So that's 18 plus 18. That's 36% chance to block And with our Ascendant Gladiator passive, you get a 20% inherent chance to block. That is doubled with our Gladiator passive, so now we're at 40%. And then we reach max block with these two. So max block. So that's our weapons. And this will probably get us to past endgame. We'll probably be able to at least do yellow maps with these, okay? Maybe even more. I don't know. It's going to be fun to try this. I'm going to see how far I can go with these Ungle Gouch's boot knife, okay? Now, what's our helmet going to go for? Cheap helmet that'll last us all the way until endgame, until we find a good, solid 6-link right here. Honor, home, soldier's helmet. All we need is a 4-link one of these bad boys. It's got plus 2 level of socketed gems. And reduced mana cost of skills, which is kind of nice. And we might even be able to veil it, to corrupt it, and try to get like an implicate mod. I don't know what it could get, but I'm thinking this helmet will be cheap enough that we can get a couple and try to veil a couple of them and see what we're going to use. So this is the skill. And we get plus 2 to level of socketed gems. Now, why is this super important? Well, all we have to do is our elemental hit is scaled. Our damage is scaled by gem level, not by our attacks or any elemental damage on our gear. It's all scaled by this elemental hit gem. Now, we're going to use the Empower gem in that helmet. All we have to do is buy an Empower helmet, or Empower gem, stick it in here, and now that, if we buy like an over-leveled Empower gem, that's going to give another plus 2 to Empower, so now our skills are going to have like plus 5. So we're going to have plus 5 to elemental hit. So a level 25 elemental hit deals, look at those massive damage numbers there. Almost 1,500 damage. Let's just do lightning damage. 2,000 flat damage per hit. And with our ludicrous attack speed, we're going to be able to scale the hell out of that. 2,000 damage, 2,000 flat damage for one hand. We're going to have probably 6 attacks per second. Maybe not that fast. All right, let's just say 5 attacks per second. We'll easily be able to hit 5 attacks per second with a bunch of more multipliers on there. We're going to be doing some good damage. All right. So that is the build. If you want to go ahead and try it, I'm gonna be walking through this build. I'm gonna make a video walking through. I'm gonna go over each gear. I'm gonna do like each act, kind of like I did my first one. And then, you can either play along with me while the video is going, and I'll kind of talk you through it as far as new people. Or you could just listen to the beginning. I'll probably, at the beginning of each act, I'll kind of go over, do a quick rundown of what I did at the previous act to get to where my gear is at that, and then I'll play through the act. All right, so that's how my build is that's how it's gonna go. I hope to see you next video. Next video, we're gonna be setting up the item filter. Not much for that, but I hope you enjoyed the build and I hope it works out. We'll see how we do. The rest of the gear is just gonna be like rare gear, nothing special. So I'm hoping it works out well.